In 1997, a mysterious recording appeared on the deep web. Without apparent explanation, an interrogation carried out in a small investigation room was leaked, capturing the account of a girl aged just 12. The recording, initially ignored, soon attracted attention for its disturbing content. The men with arms of light. They came from the sky, she said, her voice shaky but full of certainty. What seemed to be just the outburst of a child in the midst of fear soon turned into something much bigger. 4 pupils from a boarding school in an isolated rural area had disappeared during an unexplained blackout. The girl was the only survivor, but her account sounded more like a fictional story than a plausible explanation for the disappearance. Or was it? Today, the answers to that event are still lost in the shadows of the unknown, but there is something more, something that no one imagined would happen. Back then, Hillcrest Boarding School was a place known for its rigidity and isolation. Located in a rural area, far from the hustle and bustle of the cities, it was the kind of school where students spent months without seeing their families, immersed in a rigid routine of studies and discipline. But there was something else about the place, something that nobody seemed to want to question, perhaps because it was veiled by distance and silence, something that would later be impossible to ignore. During the 1997 school year, the school accommodated around 50 students, all from families who, for various reasons, had chosen the distance from Hillcrest to educate their children. The structure of the school was simple but functional. Wooden chalets, a large dining hall and several outdoor areas surrounded by a vast forest. But at night, when the campus lights went out, the feeling of loneliness was overwhelming. On the night of the disappearance, something unusual happened. During a sudden blackout, the lights in the entire school went out, plunging everyone into complete darkness. In the chaos of the moment, 4 students simply disappeared. There were no traces, no sign of a struggle, nothing at all, just a void. The case seemed to have been solved quickly, but that was until the girl's recording began to circulate. She, Lisa, was one of the few people awake when the blackout happened. She claimed with disconcerting certainty to have known what had happened to her colleagues. They were taken away by the men with the light arms, a nonsense story, or a detail that could change everything. In a widely shared audio, what seemed to be just an attempt to understand the disappearance of her friends turned into a terrifying description. Lisa, the only survivor of that event, described the night of the blackout in vivid detail, as if she was still experiencing it all over again. But the most disturbing thing was not the fact that she had witnessed the disappearance of her colleagues. It was what she said next. "They were there," Lisa whispered in the recording. "Men, with arms of light. They came down from the sky, and they took them, one by one." Her speech sounded insane, but there was an unusual calm in her voice, as if she knew exactly what she was saying. The investigators listening to the recording were silent, trying to process it. How could a 12-year-old girl speak with such certainty about something so absurd? "Men with arms of light" was undoubtedly a strange and disconnected expression, but the girl didn't hesitate, nor did she seem uncomfortable talking about it. She seemed to be dealing with a completely different reality from ours. The girl was apparently not delirious. Her description seemed too vivid, full of details that couldn't have been just a figment of her imagination. The way she described the men and the feeling that the other students were being taken away, all this made the investigators start to question what had really happened that night. Lisa insisted, still in a state of shock. "They're not gone. They're there, somewhere. They'll be back." What began as a simple case of disappearance soon turned into something much bigger. Something that, no matter how hard the investigators tried to ignore it, was becoming impossible to explain. After Lisa's recording was leaked to the media, the case took on unexpected proportions, an unexplained mystery that quickly spread. The most surprising thing, however, was not the girl's story. It was what happened next. When a team of investigators was assigned to re-evaluate the case and listen to the recording in person, no one imagined what would happen. They were convinced that by listening to Lisa, they would be able to discover a logical explanation for the disappearances. But instead, something made them disappear too. The group of investigators spent days at the school, searching for clues, reviewing security camera footage and questioning anyone who was still willing to talk about the events of that night. The atmosphere was heavy, as if an invisible presence was watching them. Every step the investigators took seemed to echo in the immense silence of the place. The last night they spent at the school before her sudden absence, the team had requested a new security recording. They wanted to examine the exact moments of the blackout. What they found was something completely unexpected. On one of the security cameras, a blurred image appeared for a brief second. It was a body, but not just any body. The figure was distorted, with shapes that couldn't be described as human. The extremities were elongated, and although it was in a strange position, the image seemed to be moving. The leader of the investigation, identified as John Harper, was the last to see the recording. In his final report, he described what he saw, but before he could do anything else, he disappeared. Like the other 4 students, there was no sign of a struggle or any other rational explanation. On investigating the cameras, what initially looked like a technical glitch became an indication that something much more sinister was at play. But what really happened to the investigators? They, like the students, disappeared without a trace. The recording of the fateful night wasn't the only strange thing that turned up. With each new examination of the security footage, something more mysterious emerged. The blurry photo that the investigation team found last night became a crucial turning point in the case. The distorted body that quickly appeared on one of the cameras was never fully explained. The image wasn't just an ordinary video distortion. It seemed to have a life of its own, almost as if it were writhing, moving in a way that was impossible for known physics. The mystery began to intensify. Some of the experts who had analyzed the recording said that the body's movement seemed unnatural, as if the laws of space and time had been altered at that particular moment. The image showed a curved figure with excessively long limbs and an indistinct face, which at first glance looked human. But as the camera captured the movement, it became increasingly difficult to identify. The turning point was not just in what was seen, but in what was implied. The image didn't look like an ordinary being, but something completely different, a being that didn't belong to our reality. Scientific explanations could not account for what was being recorded. The most disturbing thing was that when they reviewed the camera recordings, they discovered that this figure didn't just appear once. It was present at different times in various parts of the school, with behavior that defied any logical understanding. It was as if she was always lurking, waiting for the right moment to manifest herself. The school, once seen as an isolated and safe place, now became the stage for something incomprehensible. The enigma deepened, and each new discovery only led to more questions, more worries. If the presence of that figure was real, what else had been hidden in that school? The disappearance of the investigators was just the tip of the iceberg. Something bigger was afoot, and no one knew how far it could go. The growing sense of dread took hold not only of the researchers, but of all who approached Hillcrest College. As the investigations deepened, new discoveries began to be made, but none of them were more alarming than what happened the next night. When the first signs of radioactive contamination began to appear, the evacuation of the school was decided urgently and without hesitation. At that moment, the true dimension of what was happening there was revealed in a brutal and terrifying way. An area around the college began to be isolated, and authorities declared that the radiation was inexplicable. There were no known sources of radiation in the region, and no nuclear incidents had been recorded. But the measurements were clear. The field around the school was contaminated in an inexplicable way, a contamination that would spread for years. The decision to evacuate was made quickly, but what no one could have predicted was that, just like the researchers and missing students, no one exposed to the contaminated area would return in the same way. In a matter of days, the place was closed and sealed, a secret of even greater proportions than anyone could imagine. The authorities even suggested that the field around the college was left untouched for a period of 17 years due to high levels of radiation detected. While the outside world was silent about what happened, a forgotten area of the planet was marked by radiation, as if the Earth itself was trying to hide something. The mystery of the disappearance of students and researchers was never solved, and the school was finally abandoned, becoming an obscure and forbidden memory. The Hillcrest School, now completely isolated and classified as a high-risk area, was marked in history as a place where the unexplainable became reality, and where truth was left behind, buried under the weight of radiation and silence. If you've come this far, it's because something in this story has trapped you. So leave your like, subscribe to the channel, and activate the bell. Because believe me, there's a lot more coming, and you don't want to miss out on what's coming.